Hi, good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Portland Social Distance Ensemble, brought to you by 45th Parallel. My name is Martha Long. I'm the principal flute of the Oregon Symphony, and I'm a member of the Arcturus Wind Quintet under the 45th Parallel universe. This week's show is going to be a little bit different. I know that our webmaster Danny Rosenberg and our executive director Ron Blessinger came up with this technology to allow musicians to collaborate with each other in real time from the safety of their own homes. But this week it's just me. I will be the only musician on your screen. But it's okay because we have a great program of pieces for solo flute and some of them for flute and electronics, all of which happen to be by some really amazing female composers. So, and most of these women also happen to be amazing flute players as well. Great program, great women. So, we will start with an Etude by Katherine Hoover. Katherine Hoover is a composer who's well known to all flute players. She started her musical education as a flutist, and as she got into conservatories and more formal training, she took some composition classes, but she said that she was always discouraged by being the only woman in the room, and she felt that she was not taken seriously by her male colleagues and her male instructors. So it took her a lot longer until later in her life to really come into her own as a composer. And in 1991, she founded Papagena Press, which allowed her to self-publish her own pieces of music, and the first piece that she published with Papagena won some huge, very important awards. So this particular piece that I'll start with is an etude from a set of 9 that she wrote in 2010 or 2011. And this is a little bit more introspective and slow and expressive. Etude number 1 by Katherine Hoover. Come back to some more etudes, one more etude in that set later. I misspoke, that was actually etude number 6. We'll do etude number 1 later for any of you who are at home keeping track. Okay, so next we will go to a piece by the flutist and composer and performer Alison Loggins Hull, who some of you might know better by her stage name. She is half of the flute duo Flutronics. Her and Natalie Joachim, who we'll hear from later in the program, are a really incredible duo, and they have several amazing recordings on their website, and many of their compositions are actually available for sale on their website. So if you're a flute player and you're looking for something exciting to play, check them out. It's Flutronics with an X. This particular piece is called Stacked, which refers to how Alison composed it. She says, quote, When I sat down to compose Stacked, I was thinking of ways to construct an entire piece using rhythmic flute motifs as building blocks. Rather than sitting with a pencil and manuscript paper, I grabbed my flute and proceeded to improvise and experiment with various accent placements, rhythmic feels, and melodic lines. Suddenly, I had a number of little noodles that I wanted to work with. After thinking of ways to use these 4-bar loops, I decided to stack them on top of each other, and suddenly I had a piece. To add contrast to the repeated loops, I added a singing and playful solo line that weaves in and out of the accompaniment. End quote. So there are several different versions of Stacked. In any version of this piece, you have up to 6 parts going at once, all of which are played on the flute. In this particular version, I am playing along with a recording, and the other 5 parts are on the recording played by Alison herself. So you get to hear her tonight as well. All right, so this is Stacked for solo flute and recording by Alison Loggins Hull. Isn't that so cool? I love that piece. All right, so that was Alison Loggins Hull. And next we go to Eve Beglarian, who's actually the only composer on this program who is not also a flute player. Eve is a composer, obviously, a vocalist, and an audio producer who has been called, quote, a humane, idealistic rebel and a musical sensualist, one of music's truly free spirits, and a remarkable experimentalist, end quote. How's that for a review? Her piece is titled I Will Not Be Sad in This World, and it's based on songs by a legendary Armenian troubadour from the 18th century. So I will actually be playing the alto flute on this piece. This is my alto flute. It's bigger than the flute. It's pitched in G, so it's a fourth lower, which is why it's longer and wider. And it has a more mellow sound, which I really love. The electronic track on this particular piece is just a drone underneath and then vocals on top, sung by Eve herself. And there's a little bit of distortion as we get towards the end of the track where Eve sort of plays with the harmonics, which give it a really sort of sparkly, scintillating sound. But the last time I played this piece, I said to the audience, don't worry, this is probably the most gentle introduction to electronic music you will ever get, and I stand by that. This piece is deeply meditative, very calm, very relaxing, very moving. So, let's see. Here is, actually, let me toot a note on this alto flute. All right, great. So this is Eve Beglarian's piece for alto flute and electronics, I Will Not Be Sad in This World. So that was I Will Not Be Sad in This World by Eve Beglarian. And you heard her singing on that track, along with some electronic harmonics and distortion. Okay, so our next piece is by Natalie Joachim, who is the other half of the duo Flutronics, along with Alison Loggins Hull, who wrote Stacked. So these two ladies perform together frequently and also write a lot of really incredible music, like I said. This piece, Wander, has the most electronic elements out of all of the pieces on the program, but I still feel like we're in a really kind of accessible space. So Natalie uses synthesizer, she uses drum machine, she uses her own voice, so you'll get to hear her sing, and then she uses the flute, which is acoustic and live. So about this piece, Natalie wrote, quote, "Wander was written for Kendall Hunt, a dear friend whose personality radiates a whimsical quality. With her in mind, I wanted to create a piece that was fun, lighthearted, and playful. The lyrics are, I'm a wanderer, sometimes I wander. Maybe I'll wander my way right back to Harlem, or just stay right here in the sun." Natalie continues, she says, "I aimed to create an atmosphere that was fluid, youthful, and carefree in her honor." End quote. So, here we go, back to normal flute. This is Wander by Natalie Joachim.
Sometimes I wander. Maybe I'll wander my way right back to Harlem, or just stay right here in the sun.
like that piece as much as I do. That is Wander by Natalie, Joachim, part of Flutetronics. Okay, so that takes us to our last piece for today's program. We're back to Katherine Hoover, another one of her etudes from this set of 9 that she wrote in 2011. This one, just as the first one was expressive and slow, this one is rhythmic and jaunty with little hints of jazz and blues. Etude number 1 by Katherine Hoover. Great, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Remember to subscribe to the 45th Parallel YouTube channel so that you never miss a show. Thank you to our webmaster and technical guru, Danny Rosenberg, for coming up with this technology that allows us to play for you every single week. Just remember, if your donations support this concert series, and you can make them on Facebook or on the 45th Parallel website. Join us again next week. We have James Shield on clarinet, Emily Cole on violin, both in Portland, Keith Ham in Edmonton, Canada on viola, and Laura Metcalf in New York City on cello. And they are playing a brand new piece that James wrote during quarantine. Hope to see you then. Take care.